Tonight, we're going to look at the amazing human brain. When I look at it as a detective, I kind of look at the big picture, and actually, I think I could give several talks about the human brain, but I want to make the point. God says in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, to look for evidence for him in the creation, and it says those who don't see it are without excuse. So we're going to look at some evidence, and I think it's the best evidence on earth is the amazing human brain. Yeah, I got a couple of quotes from Akio Kayu. He's a scientist and he's on TV quite a bit and YouTube, and he's a very brilliant guy, and he's kind of open-minded, and I believe he believes in a higher power in the universe. I'm not sure if he's a Christian or anything, but I got a couple of quotes from him about the human brain. It says the human brain has 100 billion neurons. Each neuron is connected to 10,000 other neurons. Sitting on your shoulder is the most complicated object in the known universe. So that's why I think it's probably great evidence. Another quote from him with a picture of him. The most complex object in the known universe, the brain, uses 20 watts of power. It would require a nuclear power plant to energize a computer the size of the city block to mimic your brain, and your brain does it with just 20 watts. So if someone calls you a dim bulb, that's a compliment. And how it does that without all the nuclear power and everything is truly amazing. Okay, the human brain is the body's 3-pound command center, serving as the most complex living structure known in the universe. It processes a continuous stream of sensory data, generates our thoughts, feelings, and memories, and automatically controls all life-sustaining bodily functions. So it's the reason you feel pain in your toe, and you see things, and you feel things, you smell things, and hear things. It's all due to your amazing brain. The human brain is truly incredible. Did you know that the brain contains about 100 billion neurons, also known as neurons or nerve cells, which is equivalent to the number of stars in the galaxy? It has more connections than all the computers on the earth combined. These connections are not just connections, but microprocessors. So all these connections are microprocessors, and it's an amazing, amazing network of things. Three main structural pillars. The brain is divided into three primary interconnected components according to the Cleveland Clinic. So cerebellum, the largest area, 85% of the total weight, managing high-level cognitive processes. It divided into two hemispheres and four specialized lobes. Cerebellum, tucked in the back of the skull, this manages essential fine motor skills, physical balance, and posture. Brainstem, sitting on the base, it acts as a relay to the spinal cord and maintains automatic systems like heart rate and breathing. So it's in, it's in charge of your heart rate and your breathing, and it's all connected to everything. Beyond human engineering, it outperforms supercomputers in efficiency while using minimal energy, about 2% of the body weight, but highly demanding. Features like plasticity, the ability to rewire based on experience, information processing, and storage are highlights as hallmarks of superior design. Discoveries revealing even more layers of complexity, example, dense neural folds or specific gene functions, are interpreted as further refutations of evolutionary explanations. How did it all come together? By time and chance, basically mutations, and how did this all get programmed together? It just doesn't make sense. Unique human capabilities. Scientists emphasize abilities like abstract thought, language with inner grammar rules, self awareness, morality, and spiritual comprehension, which sets humans apart from animals. They think it's just an animal brain, but it has all these amazing things in addition. These are not incremental evolutionary add-ons, but a specially endowed by the Creator. Early Darwin himself and Alfred Russel Wallace, that's the other guy, wrestled with how natural selection could produce a brain with vast unused potential in primitive humans, a point creationists frequently cite. Somehow it has the ability to think and consciousness too. It is connected electronically to the entire body and takes the information from our amazing eyes and makes it so we can interpret what we see, but also interprets what we hear in our amazing ears. We have an amazing way to breathe and eat with our tongues, our amazing moving food, but also sending taste to our brains so we can tell if something is bad for us. We're also aware of everything, pain, etc., that is happening to all our bodies. The brain is astronomically complex organ. The more we learn about our gray matter, the more we realize it truly is an engineering marvel. We're long We've long known that different parts of the brain allow for different functions, but real life examples are increasingly showing that the brain, particularly the infant brain, to be more complex than the simplistic understanding. Blazing communication speeds, the internal data streams, and electrical signals can travel up to at speeds up to 350 miles per hour. Super low energy draw, the entire original operational capacity of the human thought runs on roughly 20 watts of power, barely enough to light a dim light bulb. And that's where he got that from. Dynamic neuroplasticity, the brain rewires itself throughout life, physically adapting its structures based on learning, environment, and injury recovery. How the brain compares to a computer. Your brain's storage capacity is considered virtually unlimited. It doesn't get used up like RAM on your computer. So you never get not have enough RAM. The latest research show that the brain's memory capacity is a quadrillion or 1015 bytes. Astoundingly, this is about the same amount needed to store the entire internet. So you have enough storage capacity in your brain to store the entire internet. That is beyond amazing. The human brain is capable of 1016 processes per second, which makes it far more powerful than any existing computer. Researchers involved in the AI Aspects project have developed a way to compare supercomputers to brains by measuring how fast a computer can move information around within its own system. By this standard, the human brain is 30 times more powerful than the IBM Sequoia, one of the world's fastest supercomputers. Japan's K computer is one of the most powerful computers in the world. When programmed to simulate human brain activity, it took 40 minutes to crunch the data equivalent to just 1 second of brain activity. The human brain can create structures up to 11 dimensions. And this is some research that I found very interesting. And maybe there's 11 dimensions in heaven, or 3 here and 8 there. We'll see. But anyway, last year, neuroscientists used a classic branch of math in a totally new way to peer into the structure of our brains. What they discovered is that the brain is full of multi-dimensional geometrical structures operating at as many as 11 dimensions. The team used algebraic topology, a branch of mathematics to use to describe the properties of objects in spaces regardless of how they change shape. They found that groups of neurons connected into cliques, and that the number of neurons in a clique would lead to its size as a high-dimensional geometric object, a mathematical dimension concept, not a space-time one. We found a world that we have never imagined, said lead researcher, neuroscientist Henry Markham from the EPFL Institute in Switzerland. No one could ever imagine it. The study was published in Frontiers of Computational Neuroscience. We're going to look a little bit inside the brain, see some amazing things. Scientists mapped a piece of the brain the size of half a grain of rice. So this is a pretty little piece of brain. 1/1,000th the size of the human brain. It took them a year and over 1.8 million gigabytes to scan it. They found over 57,000 cells, 150 million synapses, and even some new structures they didn't know existed. Mapping the entire human brain in this level of detail would require all the data storage generated on Earth in a year and a 140-acre data center. But the human brain itself can hold up to 2.5 million gigabytes of information, enough for 3 million hours of HD video or 342 years of continuous viewing. So that's pretty impressive, I would say. It processes roughly 10 quadrillion calculations per second, enough processing power to run over 4,000 high-end gaming PCs, all operating at peak ability. And it only runs on the amount of power needed for a single dim light bulb. No technology even comes close to doing what the brain can do. The more we learn about biology, the more complex it becomes. And here's another story I wanted to add. It's an example of a boy born with a rare disorder. Take, for example, a 7-year-old Australian boy known as BI. They'll call him BI. Since shortly after his birth, he has been missing his primary visual cortex, the brain's visual processing center, due to a rare metabolic disorder. In order to see normally, people need this section of the brain because it processes the electrical signals relayed from the eyes. If you're missing this chunk of brain, like BI is, you should have cortical blindness, but BI has near normal eyesight. BI is able to run around, play soccer, even play video games. He can see and name objects and colors, choose between different faces displayed on a screen, and identify whether the face is happy, fearful, or neutral. And he can grab different sized blocks placed in front of him. His only drawback is severe short-sightedness. This boy is the first known person without a visual cortex to have nearly normal conscious vision. Interestingly, doctors refer to this as conscious vision because others with damaged visual cortex may be may have blind sight, a degree of unconscious visual awareness. Although the person does not consciously feel that they can see, they are, for example, able to navigate through an obstacle course. So they're getting the signals, they just can't totally process it to see the picture. Researchers scanned BI's brain with an MRI and discovered that another area of his brain had taken over for the missing visual cortex, allowing him to see. They believe that because he lost that portion of his brain at such a young age, his brain basically rewired itself, allowing him to see. One researcher commended younger brains just tend to recover and adapt much better. The brain is amazing, and those like BI are showing researchers that it is even more astounding and complex than we thought. The brain, with all its intricacies, points clearly towards an all-wise creator. Natural processes and random chance over long periods of time will not produce a brain with such astounding capacities. Only an all-powerful creator could design such a thing. God, in his providential wisdom, has given our bodies incredible ability to adapt in this sin-cursed world. This young man's brain realized something was wrong and rewired to connect the problem on its own. Stories like this should cause us to praise the wisdom of the one who has fearfully and wonderfully made us and given us what we need to live in this sin-cursed and broken world. Okay, towards the end here, I want to look at the emotion awe. And when I taught about the fear of the Lord, I call it being awestruck. And just being awestruck with the knowledge of God and how great He is in His creation. This is a definition I found on the internet. Awe is an emotional motion characterized by a sense of wonder, amazement, and reverence towards something that is grand, magnificent, or beyond one's understanding. It is often experienced in the presence of natural beauty, great achievement, or profound spiritual experiences. All can be described as a feeling of being humbled, inspired, and uplifted, and it can have a profound impact on our thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. So I think being awestruck of God is the highest way to lift us up and having a profound impact on our thoughts. Because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Looking at all, everyone, even atheists, experience all. They explain it away? A thunder of a waterfall, the soaring heights of a snow-peaked mountain, a dark sky sprinkled with thousands of stars. Sights like these have inspired awe throughout history. We all experience awe. Merriam-Webster describes it well, an emotion variously combined with dread, interesting dread, veneration, and wonder that is inspired by authority or by the sacred or sublime. That feeling of veneration in the face of the scared has set atheists scurrying for generations, denying that all even exists except among religious fanatics, but today everyone is forced to embrace its reality. Neuroscientists can detect its effect in the brain. So instead of accepting the classic Christian claim that all results from God's design of human beings to recognizing his handiwork and worship him, evolutionary scientists are looking for an alternative explanation. First attempt at a scientific definition of all appeared in landmark 2003 paper in Cognition and Emotion. It stresses our feelings when we come into contact with vastness, sometimes larger than ourselves. This is combined with a threat or that challenges our current understanding of the world. By defining it this way, scientists hope to find why humans might have evolved this reaction as a survival process. And I don't think they can do it as a survival process. Neuroscientists who study the brain and its processes now have at their disposal statistical technology that is mapping how billions of neurons in the human brain can produce awe and other emotions. They can also track how the emotions affect the rest of the brain and the body. At the latest meeting of the Organization for Human Brain Mapping, Michael Van Elk explained how he's using MRI brain scans to show the feeling of awe, shut down the brain's default mode network, an area thought to relate to our own sense of ourself. This would explain why we feel like we lose a sense of ourselves in a moment of awe. We become less aware of ourselves and more connected with those around us. We become more connected with the Creator God also. Other researchers are looking at the mystical awe claimed by worshipers of every stripe. They found these religious, spiritual, and mystical experiences, RSMEs, have their origin, at least partially, in our neurology. They, across religions, produce activities in the limbic system, the brain's emotional system, and cause change in the thalamus, the part of the brain that shapes our sense of reality. So it does a whole lot to our brain. Combined with a slowing down of the activity in the default mode network described above, this explains why study participants report feeling such a oneness during their experience. All changes our emotions and the way we see ourselves and the world around us. And this has one positive side effect. Focusing outside ourselves on the bigger picture can improve health and quality of life. It helps us feel less stressed and even happier. It even gives our immune system a little boost by decreasing the production of cytokines, which increase inflammation. And these benefits are just for the moment, but we can be felt for weeks later. All also calms our fight or flight response, makes people more willing to give of their time, and can even help us remember details or improve our focus. It also has been shown to increase creativity and curiosity. Experience this sensation is good for us. Describing what isn't the same as establishing where it came from or why it exists. Even atheists now accept that this feeling of vanishing self or transcending yourself exists and is a healthy benefit to people. To them, it doesn't mean you have to worship God, but it helps, I think. Here's a couple of ones that are deniers. Reacher Dr. Keltner, who was interviewed, who's interviewed thousands of people about their law-inspiring experiences. It goes beyond religion. People have always felt all about the non-religious things. It's available to all atheists in full force. Another denier is Andrew Newberg. Neuroscientists emphasize the same thing, that it doesn't matter whether your belief system is atheistic or theistic. You don't have to any given belief system in order to have these experiences. Well, it's going to happen to your brain, but it's going to be better if it's a religious experience with the Creator God. Thankfully, the Creator gave us an eyewitness account that documents the past to keep us from falling into error. The Bible clearly explains that the Lord created us to worship Him from the very beginning, and He made our minds so we could stand in awe of His handiworks. In Romans 1:20, we're wired for awe because God designed our brains that way. And that's a better explanation of how we got that way. As scientists learn more about the brain, our reasons for awe should keep growing. This design is a gift from God and truly gives us a survival benefit. Our, our loving God wants everyone, even our fallen, rebellious, dying condition, to see that true life and fulfillment can come only from Him. A lot of the people in Eastern meditations, they kind of are working on the same thing. They just don't have the Creator God to fill their void, but they realize it's a good thing. The psalmist David described this universal sense of awe in our proper response. He gazed into the night sky. He says, when I look at your heavens and the work of your fingers, the moon, the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Are you in awe of an awesome God? Are you awestruck by the awesome God? And I think that's something that we all should think about a little bit more. Psalm 33, verse 8, let all the earth fear Yahweh. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. And that's what we should be doing, and doing more. So there were some other areas about the brain that I didn't go into, but other studies. And did you know that your brain lights up in a special way during prayer and worship? Worship doesn't just change your soul, it changes your brain. Your brain is wired for God. Science confirms that the brain is designed for worship. So this is all true in all facts. So a summary of what I talked a little bit about. I won't talk about all. I talked quite a bit about it, but just the brain. The irreducible complexity and engineering marvel, the brain, with roughly 86 billion neurons, trillions of synaptic connections that are microprocessors, precise chemical signaling, and integrated systems for memory, language, emotions, reasoning, and consciousness. It is seen to be too intricate to arise gradually via mutation and natural selection by natural means. Removing or altering key parts would disrupt function, pointing to being assembled as a complete functional system. Creationist organizations like the Institute for Creation Research describe it as the greatest concentration of chemo-neurological order and complexity in the physical universe, and an ultimate design challenge for evolution. Beyond human engineering, it outperforms supercomputers in efficiency while using minimal energy, about 2% of the body weight, but highly demanding. Features like plasticity, the ability to rewire based on experience, information processing, the storage are highlighted as hallmarks of superior design. Discoveries reveal even more layers of complexity. Example, dense neural folds or specific gene functions are interpreted as further refutations of evolutionary explanations. Evidence of the creator. Articles from ICR often state that the brain's quiet workings point towards its designer, and its origin is beyond comprehension from a naturalistic point of view. The brain is presented as proof of God. Example, the brain is proof of God or carries the unmistakable fingerprint of a designer. It enables a human to appreciate creation, seek truth, and relate to God. This is God's glory on display. We view the human brain as a profound example of divine design and engineering by God. We see its astonishing complex efficiency and capability as clear evidence of purposeful creation rather than undirected natural processes like evolution. We celebrate the human brain as amazing precisely because it reflects the wisdom, power, intentionality of a divine creator. We believe that its features makes evolutionary accounts inadequate, invite awe and praise towards our God. Did you know that the brain might be wired for faith? Studies have shown a connection between the brain's temporal lobe and deep spiritual experiences. Whether through prayer, meditation, or awe, you may be activating your brain's God center, and that's good for your mental health. Faith can calm anxiety, boost resilience, and bring peace. And nothing should so occupy the main mind of the Christian than discovering God each day. And I think this is something that we all need to work on our whole lives. Just thinking about God and praising Him and praying to Him and reading the Bible and contemplating His greatness.